Fans of the Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me for a rules and tactics review of the Legio Custodes Coronus Grav-carrier dedicated transport tank. The Legio Custodes is a small in number, highly elite fighting force, the finest troops in the entire of human space, and it is fitting that they have a suitably high-tech and sophisticated dedicated transport for their forces, and that takes the form of this vehicle here, the Coronus Grav-carrier. And as we see from the base mount, it is indeed, if we do a spin move, it is indeed an anti-gravity vehicle. And anti-gravity vehicles are in general very rare in the Imperium, and this is one of a handful that the Custodians field. They also obviously have the Caladius series tanks and the Pallas attack vehicles as well. So what I'm going to do in this review, I'm going to talk through the unit capability and the tactical deployment around this vehicle for the Custodian force. The source for my rules in this review is Horus Heresy Book 7 Inferno. Before I get into the actual rules and tactics, I'm just going to touch on a nice little bit of lore that's written about this unit. And it is noted that the Coronus is, by the end of the Great Crusade, it is widely deployed across the Custodian Guard, and it replaced, and it was an evolution of, the earlier Jocasta pattern Gravcraft that had been used by the Custodians in the Unification Wars. And for those of you who remember, and particularly perhaps who owned Warhammer 40,000 Compendium back in the day, the Jocasta was a name given to the very old scratch build deodorant bottle grav attack vehicle for the Imperium. So yes, the old grav attack. So I do appreciate the little nod to history in the lore there. I think that's a very nice touch. Let's talk about rules then. This is one of two dedicated transport options in the Talons of the Emperor army list. The first is the Coronus Grav-carrier. The second is the Charon pattern Acquisitor. Now the reason for two is the Coronus is used exclusively by the Legio Custodes, and the Charon is used exclusively by the Sisters of Silence. So that's why we have two dedicated transports. This vehicle costs 135 points. It has ballistic skill 5. Its armour is front 13, side 12, rear 11. It has 4 hull points, so the same as a Land Raider. It's a fast skimmer, and for its equipment it has a twin-linked Lastrum bolt cannon. That's this weapon here, mounted underneath the pilot's cockpit. It has a turret-mounted twin-linked Arachnus blaze cannon, which is this fella. It has a flare shield and a machine spirit. And it comes with special rules of deep strike, outflank, and grav backwash. Its capacity is 12, so the same as a Warhammer 40,000 Land Raider. If you convert that into the currency of the Custodians, however, you're only ever going to carry 6 troopers, because they're all Custodian warriors are bulky. However, you can equally carry Custodians and Terminators, because they're all just bulky. You'll always be carrying up to 6 guys. It only has one access point, and that's this large ramp at the back. And it's not an assault vehicle, so yeah, bear that in mind. No Spartan style attacks with this guy. It has a handful of weapon options. You can buy it armoured ceramite for 20 points, a searchlight for 1 point, and extra armour for 5 points. And then the special rule on this vehicle, and this has cropped up a few times, is grav backwash. As long as the vehicle isn't immobilised, any attacks in assault have a -2 to hit it. So in close assault, it's actually quite hard to hit, and that is a useful capability that can be exploited. When you look at the capabilities on paper, actually it's a very capable transport, and it can serve, it's really, for me, it's a dual purpose vehicle. It can serve the role of a light battle tank and a dedicated transport very effectively in the Custodian Guard army. And it's only if you're going to be up against heavy armour that you need to bring along anything tougher. But even then, the troops you're going to transport may well be able to do that for you. Let's just review the capabilities of the weapons. Firstly, the bolt cannon. So the Lastrum bolt cannon is range 36, strength 6, AP 3, and it's a heavy 3 with the heliothermic detonation rule. Heliothermic detonation means if any target takes an unsaved wound, they have to take a toughness test. If they fail that, they suffer an instant death result. Vehicles that take a penetrating hit you apply a +1 to the result on the vehicle damage table. So in effect, all penetrating hits against vehicles are AP2. Or the heliothermic detonation rule is great for killing tough terminators. And although your AP3 is not really going to help you there, where I see it really being useful is fighting robots of the Mechanicum, particularly Vorax, Domitar, and the ubiquitous Castellax, where you're going to break their armor save, and that heliothermic detonation rule, although they've got a high toughness, so they're only going to be failing on a 6, you are going to inflict extra casualties. So yeah, it's a very useful gun there as an anti-personnel and light anti-vehicle weapon. And then the Arachnus Blaze Cannon, it's like a souped up multi-laser, I think is the best way of putting it. It has 2 firing modes. The first is the Concentrator Blast, which has range 48, strength 8, AP1, heavy 1 and exoshock. Now this is a fire mode that makes it a decent medium battle tank, and if you can penetrate enemy vehicles' armour, you're really going to hurt them. So the AP1 gives a good chance of scoring an explode result. With exoshock, if you successfully score a penetrating hit, you roll d6 on 4+, you get an automatic additional penetrating hit, and you can't take a cover save against it. Against anything of armour 13 or lower, that's a good, capable gun for taking them on. It has an alternate fire mode, and this complements the Lastron Bolt Cannon well, which is called Burst Fire, and this is range 36, strength 6, AP5 and heavy 3. AP5, you're not going to score any major damage. However, the high strength is always useful. 2s to wound on virtually all Marines, decent chance against mechanical robot, light vehicles. For anti-air, you've got 6 shots out of this thing. Even if you're snap firing, that's a reasonable chance of connecting. Combined with the fact that it is a fast skimmer, means that you can exploit the capabilities of this gun in particular to outmaneuver enemy tanks and get flanking shots in. If you're fighting against things like enemy Sicarans and Predators, you're going to do a lot of damage with this gun. Defensively, this vehicle is arguably even better than it is offensively. That's due to the fact it has a flare shield combined with a front armor of 13. That's the equivalent of armor 14 against standard tanks, armor 15 against blast weapons, so Leman Russers can shoot at you all day with battle cannons and you will not take damage on the front. 4 hull points means it can certainly take the damage. The extra armor is probably worthy of consideration on this for 5 points to just negate that likelihood of getting caught out by a crew stunned result. As a machine spirit, so that means it's very mobile. You're always going to be able to keep on the move and keep firing your weapons, so that's good. Even with its weapons, even without its transport capability, the Coronus is actually a very capable tank. In another subtle point to think about with your defensive capabilities, it's quite a wide vehicle, so your front arc for your flare shield is actually quite wide on this, particularly if you compare it to solar auxiliary vehicles and Mechanicum vehicles, which have much more narrow profiles. So that arc advantage will help you as well, keeping that flare shield aligned to your opponents. That's the battle tank bit of this. It is a dedicated transport. You have to buy it as a dedicated transport. You can't just buy one like, say, a Spartan in the heavy support slot. Fortunately, though, it's available to all Custodian infantry squads. So that is the Heteron Guard, the Aquilon Terminator Squad, Custodian Guard, Sentinel Guard, and then the Sagittarian Guard Squad. You limit your slot size with that a bit because you can only take 6 guys and put them in the Coronus. 6 Custodians of any particular species are very potent. To which is the best squads to put this vehicle with? I suppose that's where it becomes a bit more situational, doesn't it? A lot of Custodian builds for their forces, you can get the option of teleporting in. Now, this has got the deep strike rule, so you can always drop this in as well. An outflank as well means you can take that approach for deployment also. I can see this working with any of the Custodian Guard squads well, as long as you have tactics in mind to allow you to disembark, then charge. That's where you need to tactically plan the use of this vehicle. But given its high mobility, I think you can use this to drop your troops where you want them and then go play tank. It really is a very versatile vehicle in that regard. For me, I'm going to couple this with a Sagittarian Guard squad, and I see that as being a good synergy because the Sagittarian are never going to be needing an assault vehicle. They're a ranged support unit. And basically I can see 2 ways to work those guys well with this. Firstly is just for a general deployment and then to move and flank and give fire support. you know, using the Sagittarian Guards halters at range and then closing to use Adrathic Destructors. But also using the deep strike rule, you can do a peekaboo attack, drop in the Grav-carrier, get out the Sagittarian Guard and unload at short range with Adrathic Destructors on armoured targets. So yeah, a good way of wiping out tough targets quickly. I mean, other good combos with this would be exploiting for more shooty options on the Custodians. So Heteron Guard Squad and Custodian Guard Squads can upgrade to Pyrothite Spears and also Adrasite Spears, which would fit with the lack of assault vehicle capability quite nice. You can get those short range powerful shooty Custodian units into the right spot to make a killer attack against a key enemy unit. So that's another nice, I think that would be another effective use of this particular vehicle. It's probably the least useful to twin with Sentinel Guard Squads armed with the swords and the shields. With a transport capacity of only 6, you're going to be limiting yourself to a 5-man squad if you want to then include an independent character as well. Okay then, so let's do some size comparisons on the Coronus Grav-carrier. We will start, as we often do, with an Astarte. So here we have an Iron Hands Medusan Immortal armed with a graviton gun. And standing this dude alongside this tank shows he's big. It's a really big vehicle. Whoops, get up trooper. Yeah, this is not a small vehicle. Let's do a comparison against a large walker. Here we've got a Contemptor Achilles Dreadnought. Yeah, and again it looks quite small next to this large vehicle if you do end-on-end comparisons. And the Coronus actually sits higher on the base than the full height of the Contemptor Achilles. So we're going to have to go straight to vehicles to try find a size comparator. Let's start with, well, in force organisation terms, its direct equivalent in the Marine legions, Rhino Demos, or Demos Pattern Rhino. Yeah. It really is a large vehicle, and it's probably close to, yeah, it's if you took the Mine Plough for Rhino, sorry, just let me move that into shot. Take the Mine Plough for Rhino, and it's actually the length of 2 Rhinos. So this is a big vehicle. So let's work up to the next point of the Marine vehicle size with a Land Raider. And this is a Land Raider Armoured Proteus from my Iron Hands complement. And yeah, that's a better comparison in size. The Coronus still looks large. I mean, height-wise, they're about the same. I mean, the Coronus is a little bit tall. I mean, the turret and these air intakes sit a little bit taller, but there's not a lot in it size-wise. Width-wise, actually they're about, it's a dead heat because of this one's got the because the Proteus has got the armoured sponsons. Lengthwise now, I'm going to have to push these back a bit. But lengthwise, the Coronus is much longer than the Land Raider. And doing a tail-to-tail comparison, so accounting for obviously the distortion of the perspective here, but looking at this, the Coronus is the Land Raider. It's a Land Raider's length plus another half. So we're going to have to go bigger. And without moving into Fellblade class super heavy tanks, the next comparator is a Spartan chassis. So this is the nearest thing I've got to a Spartan, which is a Cerberus super heavy tank destroyer, or heavy tank destroyer, sorry. And now we've got something something with parity. You know, it's the same sort of height as the Land Raider, but more or less, you know, with this built-up cupola, it's more or less the same height. Width-wise, well, this is, you know, we've already talked about the width. Same thing with. Actually, is this wider? Let's just have a look width-wise. It's still about comparable, maybe slightly wider with the last cannon sponsors, but there's not much in it hull-wise. Now, if I push these guys all the way back and do a tail-to-tail comparison, you can see they look quite comparable in terms of the overall vehicle length. And if we do tail-to-tail, there we go. Right, so those two are tail to tail now. Coronus is still longer than the Cerberus. It's around 15% longer. But if you account for the neutron laser battery, these two actually do match lengthwise. So yes, the Coronus is a very large vehicle, and that perhaps is actually its one weakness, I would say. With this being such a large vehicle, it's going to make it a bit trickier to hide from a tactical viewpoint, and also it won't be able to get into narrower areas as, say, a Rhino can. When I talked earlier about its defensive capabilities being very strong with the flare shield and the grav backwash rule, if it gets assaulted, well, it may well end up needing those on account of its big size. Final thing that's worth bearing in mind, though, is of course it's a skimmer, and you can always elect to take a jinx save. And that, I guess, is the trump card on this unit that offsets the big size. The fact that you can always decide, I'm going to jinx save, I've still got my machine spirit, so I can still fire effectively. And that is what is going to make this a real toughie, if it can keep jinking around and using its maneuverability. So yeah, it's big, but with its other capabilities, it's not so much of a limitation as it might otherwise seem. So there you have it. That's my take on the rules and tactics for using the Legio Custodes Coronus Grav-carrier in the talons of the Emperor Force. I'll be interested to hear what you think about this particular vehicle. It's a very new vehicle and an unusual one to play in 40k, an Imperial Grav vehicle. So do share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. I will speak to you next time, and goodbye.